Masechet Baba Kama Daf Samech Dalid. We are looking for a source for payment of double for a thief. On the previous daf, we already saw a source from these Pesukim 6, 7, and 8. And we saw that there's one opinion that says Pasuk 6 here is talking about a regular thief, and 7 and 8 is talking about a shomer who claims that the item was stolen and swears falsely about it. According to that interpretation, so we have the law of double here for a regular thief, and the law of double here for a shomer who lies. So we're good. But there was another opinion of the first Baraita, and that on the previous stuff, that says all these three Pesukim are all talking about a shomer that lies and says it was stolen. And therefore we asked, well, what's the source for a regular thief that if he steals and he's found, he has to pay double? And the answer to that is from this Pesukim in the same chapter, verse 3. Im himaseh timaseh biyado hageneva mishor ad chamor ad seh hayim shenaim yeshalem. If the stolen item is found in his hands, whether it be an ox or a donkey or a sheep, and it's alive, he has to pay double. Okay, we're going to analyze this pasuk in a lot of depth right now. So here we go. So nafkale, so this Tana will learn the law of double payment for a regular thief, mi de Tana de Bechizkiah, from this long baraita, de Tana de Bechizkiah. We're going to analyze this relatively long baraita. It's a bit more wordy and a somewhat unusual structure, even for a midrash halacha. And then we're going to ask some questions about the details of this baraita, and we're going to reinterpret it, and then we're going to reject this whole line of thinking anyway. Okay, here we go. Yomar shor ugneba v'akol bichlal. Our question is, what kind of derivation are we going to use here? Again, the word geneva seems to be a klal, biadoha geneva, sounds like anything that you find, but then shor hamor se are particular details. So on the face of it, this would be a klal uprat, but klal uprat, you only learn the prat. That would be only these three items. So we're not doing that. In the end, we're going to explain, after the whole baraita, we're going to explain that we're actually doing a klal prat to klal. Hageneva is a klal, shor chamor se is prat, and the word hayim we're going to use as another kelal. But right now we don't know that yet. So anyway, we're going to treat this kind of like a kelal upratu klal, even though we haven't found that structure yet. And so here we go. The Baraita says, how come the pasuk doesn't say shor and geneva and just give one example, even though these are out of order? We'll address that later. Geneva and shor, and then I would say everything should be included. Actually, if it just says shor and geneva in that order, ox and then anything stolen, that would actually be a prat uklal. And the prat uklal, you always follow the second. If there's only two things, you always follow the second one. The second one is a generalization. So then you would include everything. Now, it doesn't actually say this in that order, so that's why this doesn't really work. But anyway, if it would say that, then everything would be included. But now the Baraita rejects that thesis. Not only because it's the wrong order, but also because it's going to treat it like a klal prat uklal. Ilu kach hayit omer, ma pirat meforash karev legabe hamizbeach, af kol karev legabe mizbeach, ma yesh lecha lahavi se. No, if it only had geneva as a generality and short as a particular, I would say we should look for the defining character of a short, which is that it's something that's offered on the Mizbeach. And then I would say, you know what do you have to pay double for? Anything that is offered on the Mizbeach. All right, that would be good. Now, like what else besides an ox? Well, a sheep, that's offered on the Mizbeach. But here's the problem. Yeah, but then the pasuk does mention se, but we already know se is included from the generalization that we had from shor. Ha naman mikayem geneva. So now, what am I going to include in the word geneva that you should pay double for? Must be lerabot kol davar. In other words, once we say short already, and therefore we already know anything that's offered on the offered on the mizbeach, then says an extra word. So se must be coming to include everything. Now we're treating it again kind of like pedat and klal, as if it were in that order, and everything is included. Okay, good. But now we challenge that. Yomar shor se ugneva hakol bichlal. Right, so we're good now. We have shor and se and geneva as if it's last, and that includes everything. No, we're not going to do that, because ilukach hayiti omer ma perat meforash davar hakadosh bechora av kol davar hakadosh bechora, because I'm going to treat it like klal uprat uklal, and say only that which is characteristic of those detailed items. What's the common denominator of shor and seh? Something that when it's born, it has the holiness of a bechor. So too, anything that has the holiness of a bechor, that's what I'll include. So what else besides a shor and a seh would be included in that? Ma'yesh lecha lavi chamor. Okay, good. But keshu omer chamor, harei chamor amor. Yeah, but the problem is the pasuk says chamor also. But I already know chamor from the generalization of those two words. Ha ma'ani mekayim geneva, l'rabot kol davar. So now the extra word chamor will now tell me that I can use geneva as a kalal to include everything. So yomar shor hamor se ugneva v'kol bichlal. So now we're good. I have these three words, shor, hamor, and se. And these, they're extra because they're overlapping. And so that will indicate to me that geneva I can treat as a kalal, and now everything's included, right? No. Ilu kach hayiti omer ma perat befrash ba'alei chayim av kol ba'alei chayim. I would still look at these three and say, these are not extra. I would treat it like a klal uprat uklal. Again, we didn't see what the LS klal is yet, but we're going to after we finish this braita. But I would say, what's the common denominator? That these are all live things. So maybe I would say, all live things, you have to pay double. All live animals. So what would be included in this generalization? Other animals, besides a shor, hamor, and seh, all live animals. But keshomer hayim, harei hayim amur, but the pasuk also says the word hayim, right? In case you forgot, here it is. Mishor ad chamor ad seh hayim. So I already know that from the generalization. What is this extra word then doing? Ma'ani mekayem geneva. So what's included in geneva? L'rabot kol davar. Since I already know all living things are included without the word chayim, including the word chayim tells me that I can treat geneva as a total general category. And that's how I learn that everything is included. Okay, a kind of unusual baraita, because it's not really telling us that it is a prat to klal uprat, or is it treating it as a prat to klal or klal to prat? What is it doing here? So let's analyze. Amar mor, yomar shor ugneva. So the beginning of the baraita says, why don't we just say shor and then geneva, as if it was written mishor or shor hageneva in that order, or miketiv, and then that would include everything because that would be a prat uklal. But here's the problem: does it say shor ugneva in that order? Geneva v'shor udichtiv. This is geneva first and shor after, so you can't treat it like a prat and a klal. V'chitema ilu ne'emar kamar. And maybe you'll say, oh, the Baraita is proposing a hypothetical. If the pasuk had said things in that order, ilu ne'emar shor ugneva mesetamata parat meforash. But even in that case, if it was, let's say it was, in fact, shor and then geneva, which is a prat uklal, then would you say what's the defining character of a shor, treating it as if it's klal prat uklal? Hava shor prat ugneva kelal. We wouldn't need to look at the defining character of shor, because then it would be shor is prat, geneva is kalal, and the rule is pratu klal. You add everything to the detail, and you introduce and you add everything. So you wouldn't then go to the next step of the baraita. In other words, even if it was a theoretical that it said it in that order, you would not, then you could just end there and everything is added. So that, even as a theoretical, it wouldn't make sense. The continuation wouldn't make sense. Ela kedichtib ka'amri. Rather, the Baraita knows what the pasuk is and is addressing it as is. Geneva v'shor mimasit amar takol bechlal o ma perat meforash havele geneva kelal v'shor perat klal uprat en bechlal ela ma sheba prat shor in midachrin ala. Well, if you're treating it in the order that it is, which is geneva and shor, that's in fact what is in the pasuk, then could you say either that we include everything, or what's the defining characteristic about the detail? We wouldn't say that, which is what the next step says, because that would fit into the rule of geneva being the generalization. Shor is the detail. Anytime you have a klal uprat, you always follow the second thing. And that would mean that the second thing is shod. So shod, you have to pay double for a shod, and that's it. Nothing else that you steal would you include in that. Marava. So this whole baraita, we cannot understand why is it treating. Why is it looking at the general characteristic, the defining characteristic of the prat, if this is not a klal uprat uklal, right? It's either, hypothetically, it could be a prat uklal. In fact, it is a klal uprat, so really, it should only include the klal. All right, comes to the rescue Rava. Amar Rava, Tana ahayim ka samich le uchlal uprat uchlal ka amar le. But the Tana is relying on the word hayim to be a klal. And it's fine like this. Hageneva means anything. Shor hamor se, 3 pratim. Hayim is again another kelal. Okay. Hold on, this is not so good because the ending kelal, Hayim, is not like the opening one, Geneva. There should be some parallelism between the two, that they have similar wording, call and call or something like that, that they would both be parallel, but Hayim isn't really equal to Geneva. So the answer to that is Hatana de Berbi Ishmael hu tehai gavna darish kelale ufrate. This baraita comes from the school of Rabbi Ishmael, and in the school of Rabbi Ishmael, they invented klal pratu klal. They love pratu klal, and they do klal pratu klal like this, even if the opening and closing kelalim are not exactly the same. That's okay. Now Rava is going to explain the entire baraita with this understanding that you were assumed, you're supposed to know that we're treating the Hayim as a klal. You can see already that we're going to get into trouble because in the baraita we use the word Hayim as one of the piratim. Okay, but we'll deal with that challenge in a minute. This is what the baraita is actually doing. It's actually asking a question that we didn't realize, look at yet, this double verb. Im himaseh, timaseh. Why this double verb? Just say im himaseh biyado, im timsa biyado. Or timaseh biyado. Why do you have the double language here? Okay, in the end, just to clear confusion, the conclusion is going to be that, yes, although the word hayim in the baraita we're using as one of the piratim, not as a kalal. So this, what we just tried to do, make this a kalal and piratu klal with genevan hayim at the end, but then we're going to challenge that because hayim we use as one of the piratim. So we're going to end up saying that himaseh timaseh is itself a kalal, and we're going to use this double language to recreate a klal uprat uklal. In the end, even this won't work, but that's where we're at now. Okay, so this is the question is, why do I need that? Why not just say shor, geneva, chayim, and everything is in the generalization, right? In other words, if you had it in this order, shor, and then genevan chayim as a prat, and then klal, so then I would include everything because that's a prat uklal. But we say no. Ilu ken hayiti omer ma prat meforash davar hakarev legabe mizbeach af kol hakarev legabe mizbeach ma yesh lehavi se. No, if so, then look, it's not in the. It doesn't. First of all, it's not in that order, right? Anyway. But in any case, so since it's not in that order, I can't just include everything. I have to look at the shod and say, this is, right, treat it as a klal pratu klal, right? Shod is actually between geneva and hayim. So what's the defining characteristic of shod? It's offered on the mizbeach. So to anything offered on the mizbeach, what else would that include? Seh. But here's the thing: the pasuk already says "se kishumar se hareh ze amor han mekamim geneva l'rabot kol davar." So since "se" is already included, it's an extra word, and that will tell me, you know what, geneva. I could treat the word geneva as a generalization and include everything. But yomar geneva v'shov v'sivachem akol bichlal. Okay, so that would be good because I have geneva, I have short and se and hayim, so I'm going to include everything as if it's just a klal. אילו כן, הייתי אומר, מה פירט מפורש דבר הקדוש ברוך הוא אף כל דבר הקדוש ברוך הוא. No, se is not such an extra word that includes everything, because shod and se by themselves have a common denominator. that when they're born, they have a holiness of firstborn. What else has holiness of firstborn that would be included in that generalization? Chamor. But then we see the pasuk already says chamor, and so why do I need it to say that, since it's already included in the previous category? So since chamor is extra, it's telling me, you know what, the details don't matter. And I can go back to geneva and say geneva includes everything. And this is just a klal. And so now we're good, because we'll do yomar geneva shor se chamor v'chaim akol bichlal. Since the details are overlapping and extra, that tells me forget about the details and just go with the generality. Chamor, chaim, everything is included. Imken hayiti omer ma pirat mefurash bale chaim afkol bale chaim. Hold on, we look at the details and say they also have a common denominator, that they're all live animals. So maybe I only have to pay double for all live animals. So what else? Not only these examples of shor se and chamor, but all live animals. But then so that would include all live animals, but then we see that says the word hayim. But I already know all live animals from this generalization. So what should I include in the category of geneva? So to include everything. So actually, at this point, we're happy, right? Because we have shor se chamor, which are all examples of live animals. I don't need the word hayim, so therefore hayim comes to tell me that, you know what, the details aren't important. I can just have the word geneva to be a kilal and include everything. If so, I don't need the double verb for anything. That's the end of the re-explanation of the Braita according to Rava. Now, at this point, we say, Rava, your analysis of the Braita is so good that it's really a good question. You're right. Why do I need imem asiti maseh? I am convinced by everything that came before it. And the answer is Mishum Titla Pircha. No, look carefully at the Braita before. There is an undermining factor of that kilal that we had. In the end, how do we know to include everything? Mikilal batra, from the kalal uprat uklal, from the second kalal, the word hayim. But kilala gufe hayim ketibe. But we need that the word hayim within the peratim. We double use the word hayim by saying, oh, it's a klal uprat uklal. See, geneva say hayim. But then within the back and forth, we said, wait, we need hayim to tell me that there's nothing distinctive about shor, hamor, and seh. That it's not just that they're all, because from these three, we would think that all live animals. Chaim comes to say, oh, extra word that, you know what, the details that you derive from, that generalize from here, don't matter. Yeah, but so now you need Chaim for that, but we also relied on Chaim to make this a klal upratu klal in the first place. So, klal upratu klal, maika mahane le, ile tuye kol davar hachayim ketiv, bale chayim in midachalina la, mishum hacha isterich im himmaseh. So, since we would need the word chayim, since we use the word chayim inside, so then what does klal uprat or klal come to accomplish? What is it including? So, if you're going to include all things, but it says the word hayim, which means that live animals, yes, other things, no. That's the common denominator between the three items. And now the word hayim is at the end for a klal. So I can't use the word hayim to say that would be redundant. So if I take out hayim from the back and forth of the discussion and use it only as the last klal, then the only thing I would derive from this klal pratu klal is that all living animals I have to pay double for, but I wouldn't know anything else. That's why I need the extra words im himaseh timaseh to come to include all other things. Okay, Amri ninhu. So now, the way we're assuming it means is that imi maseh maseh is itself a klal. If something is found, that's not just imti maseh, but if anything is found, the double language comes to say, if anything is found, that's a klal. Now, geneva is also a klal. Good. Shor, hamor, seh, chayim are all peratim. So now we're taking the word chayim and putting it back into the into the detailed discussion and to teach us that shor, hamor, and seh aren't only coming to include all live beings, because chayim is an added detail that would say, no, just because it's alive, that's not a defining characteristic, because I would know that already from chayim, and so so I need chayim as one of the details. So now I have a klal here, and all the pratim. So this is good, except that it's the wrong order. I need a klal, uprat, uklal, and here I have a klal, uklal, and then the peratim. So that's what we ask. Because this is two klalim they are next to each other. Amar Ravina kedamri b'marava. Kol makom she'atam moseh shני כלים מסומכים זה לזה, הtel perat ביניהם ודונם בכלל ופרט. Oh, in the West, they have a fix for this. They say that anytime you have two klalim back to back, you could take the details and put them back and in the middle and treat it like a kalal uprat uklal. So now that's exactly what we're going to do, and we're going to do each one. It seems like when you do it as a klal uklal and then perat, it actually ends up being more powerful as follows. Shedi shor ben himaseh l'timaseh latu yemai. We're going to take the word shor, put it between those two verbs, himaseh and timaseh. That itself is a klal uprat uklal, and that's going to come to include ila tuye bale chayim mechayim nafga. What are you going to include? All live animals? We already have the word chayim, so we know that. Ela le'atur davar she'en bale chayim. Rather, we're going to include things that are not alive. Utrosh hachima perat meforash davar metat. So including from chayim, we know live things. From shor, I'll know things that are not alive. In general, I'm going to include anything that is movable and is itself intrinsic, has intrinsic value. So we're excluding land and we're excluding contracts. Okay, so we know all that already just from chayim and from shor. Now we still have chamor. We're going to put chamor in between the two klal words, and that's going to include what? If it's to include things that aren't alive, we already know that. That's going to include things that are not clearly delineated, like half above pomegranate. If you steal that, here we're including it, you have to pay double. If so, what does the word say? We already included everything that we ever need to know. So the extra perat se has nothing to teach us. This is such a major problem. We abandoned everything that we did for the past 22 minutes and 22 seconds. Ela riba umi'et v'ribahu kedetana deber Rabbi Ishmael. Rather, we're not going to treat this as a klal or according to the klal uprat rules, but rather according to the ribui and mi'ut rules, which are usually associated with Rabbi Akiva. But in this case, even Rabbi Ishmael will treat such a case as ribui, mi'ut, and ribui. Where do we see that Rabbi Ishmael uses this? The Tana deber Rabbi Ishmael b'mayim shete pe'amim en ze klal uprat ela riba umi'et v'riba riba hakol. Even Rabbi Ishmael, when you have two generalities back to back and then the details, even Rabbi Ishmael says don't treat it like a klal uprat or anything like that. Rather, understand it as ribui or mi'ut v'riba, and when we have that, we include everything, because we see the Ishmael do this in another case regarding Vayikra 11:9. Let's look at that pasuk. This is talking about kosher fish, and says, "Etzeh tochelu mikol asher b'mayim." This is what you should eat from anything that's in the water. Kol asher lo senapir v'kaskeset b'mayim. Whatever has skins and fails in the water. Bayamim v'nachalim otam tochelu. If it's in the sea and the river, you can eat it. So here we say, look at the bodies of water. We have mayim, and then mayim again. That's ribui, and another ribui. And then it gives examples of bodies of water, yamim and nechalim. And so, the Ishmael in this case says, don't treat this like a klal uprat, but rather as ribui, and according to the ribui and mi'ut rules, which say that you should include everything. And so too here, since we have himaseh, timaseh, and that's ribui and ribui, those two words by themselves teach us that we should include anything that's stolen, and the thief is found, he has to pay back double. If so, the rest of the items in the list, ox, sheep, donkey, what are they coming to exclude? One karka, v'chad lemute abadim, v'chad lemute shtarot. So one of them will exclude land, the other slaves, and the other contracts. And again, since the Riboy Mirot works differently, we don't have to look for the defining character of what the common denominator, but rather it's more mechanical. And so you have a word, and it's a detail. Well, that's limiting. The limitation doesn't have to do with the definition of the word. So we excluded all things we need to exclude. If so, geneva v'chayim. Now we have those inclusive words, geneva and chayim, that before we used as the klalim, but we don't need them now for klalim because we already have himaseh, timaseh to be riboy and another riboy. So what does geneva and chayim, what are they coming to include? Lechederav damar ahaya lekeren ka'en sheganav. We need these. We're going to read them together. Geneva v'chayim, to say that, let's say I stole an ox, and in the meantime the ox deteriorated and I didn't feed it good and all that, and then I'm found, and when I stole it, the ox was worth $1,000. Now, when I'm discovered, it's only worth $100. So I have to pay back the higher amount of the amount when I stole it. And so achaya, I have to revive the ox to its full glory at the time that I stole it, when it was $1,000, and I have to pay back the amount of when it was stolen. That's geneva chayim. That's what it means. I have to pay as the time that it was nice and healthy at the time it was stolen. At this point, we've established that according to the Tana that uses Pesukim 6, 7, and 8 all to be about Shomer, whereas he learned that a regular thief has to pay double, he learns that from verse 3. Now we're going to switch back to the other Tana. Ulman damar chad beganab echad betoen tanat ganab veganab asmo nafkale mev im maseh haganab hai im himaseh timaseh mai darishpe. According to the other Tana, that says one of the Pesukim, meaning Pasuk 6, is talking about a thief, and Pesukim 6 and 7 are talking about a shomer that claims it was stolen. And we learned the law that a thief has to pay double from verse 6. Im yimaseh haganav, right? Verse 6 says im yimaseh haganav right here. So this pasuk im yimaseh timaseh, verse 3, what do we need it for? The whole derasha that we just went through, well, is not necessary according to this Tana. And the answer is Miba'aleh lichad Rabba bar Ahilai. Damar Rabba bar Ahilai, mai ta'ama derav. Damar modeh biknas, v'achar kach ba'adim patur. Tichtiv, im himaseh, timaseh. Im himaseh be'adim, timaseh be'dayanim. Perat l'mashiach et atzmo. Oh, we need that whole verse 3 to teach me the law of Rava bar Ahilai, who said, what is the explanation for Rav's law? So this is Rav bar Ahilai explaining what Rav said. What Rav said, that someone who admits a fine. Now we know in general, if someone who is found to be guilty by witnesses, and it's a crime that deserves a fine, then he has to pay a fine. But if he admits to that same thing without witnesses, and witnesses never come, then he doesn't have to pay a fine, because the whole point of a fine is that it's not damages that you have to pay no matter what, but it's a fine to make sure I don't do it again. But since now I'm admitting to it myself, so then I wouldn't have to pay a fine. Like a thief who only has to pay double if he's found by witnesses. But if he comes and offers the item back himself, then he doesn't have to pay a fine. That everybody agrees with. But Rav is dealing with a question as follows. Let's say I come and I admit my guilt, and so now I don't have to pay a fine. But then the next day, witnesses come, and so even if I had not come forward, I would have been found guilty by witnesses. So maybe you'll say that now I do have to pay the fine because in the end, witnesses came. But Rav says no. As long as I admit my guilt first before the witnesses come, the witnesses coming do not change that. I don't have to pay the fine. That's what Rav said. Rav bar Ahilai said, what's Rav's source? From this pasuk, im himaseh timaseh, if my guilt is found through witnesses, then bedayanim, then I will be found to have to pay the fine in front of witnesses, in front of the judges, and that excludes if I self-incriminate. Then I don't have to pay the fine, and the fact that witnesses come after will not change that. So that's what this Tana can do with that pasuk. Good. Let's switch back. Ulman damar tarvar b'toen tanat ganav. According to the other Tana that says Pesukim 6 and 7 and 8. are both talking about a shomer who claims it was stolen. And he uses verse 3 to teach me that double payment for a regular thief. So this law of Rav, where will he learn of self-incrimination? Where will he learn it from? And the answer is from Me'asher Yarshi'on Elohim Velo HaMarshia Et Atzmo. It's from this pasuk here in verse 8. Asher Yarshi'on Elohim. Only if the judges find him guilty through witnesses, then he has to pay. But if he self-incriminates, then he does not have to pay. Now switching back to the other Tana, who uses Pasuk 6 for a regular Ganav and Pasuk 7 and 8 for a Shomer, and he uses Himaseh for self-incrimination. What is he going to do with that Pasuk in verse 8? Asher Yashi'un Amala Chahu Mibayaleh Lemodeh Biknas Patur. He says, from there I learned the basic law that someone who admits to a fine does not have to pay, assuming no witnesses ever come. That, the basic law I need from Yashi'un. Himaseh teach me the added case of if witnesses do come afterwards, also you don't have to pay, which is what Rav said. Okay, but so now we recalibrate and say, actually, the Asher Yashi'un, we need that for the basic law of Modeh Biknas Patur. And therefore, according to the other opinion that says verses 6, 7, and 8 are all talking about a shomer, and verse 3, Himaseh is talking about a regular ganav. In that case, Asher Yarshi'un only teaches that regular modeh biknas patur, but he would have to disagree with Rav. And that Tana would say, if he admits and witnesses come after, then the witnesses ruin his admission and he has to pay, because this pasuk will not be extra, and according to the other one, it is the Himaseh is extra, and that could teach me Rav's law. Okay, so now we're good. The one who says pasuk 6 is talking about a regular thief, and 7 and 8 are talking about a shomer who claims it was stolen. This sugya is like chad gadya, and then he learns the regular case of ganav from there, pasuk 6, and then he uses those three words to teach me the law of Rav, as explained by Rava bar Ahilai. In that case, the rest of, what does he do with the rest of pasuk 3? Right, the rest of pasuk 3, all this. He counted for Himaseh biyado. What about Hageneva Mishorat Chmorat Chayim Shenaim Yishalem? What do you do with all of that? And now we have a very surprising but significant answer. The Tana de Ishmael, Kol Parasha Shenemra, V'nishnet, Lo Nishnet, Ela Ledavar Shenit Chadesh Ba. This is the opinion of a Baraita from the school of Rabbi Ishmael, who teaches anytime you have a passage that is said once and repeated, it's repeated only for one new thing that is introduced that's new in it. In other words, this idea that the Torah doesn't waste words, everything is for a reason, that is correct according to the school of Rabbi Akiva. However, Rabbi Ishmael, he sticks to the principle of Dibrat Torah Kilshon Bnei Adam, and therefore, famously, Rabbi Ishmael is not going to learn things from doubled verbs and all that. Not only doubled verbs, but even doubled paragraphs. Yeah, the Torah can repeat paragraphs as long as there's just one new thing. And so here, because it wants to teach the law about im himaseh timaseh, to teach you this statement of Rav about self-incrimination, so then it goes ahead and includes the rest, and includes shor, chamor, seh, all these details. There's a total repetition. What's interesting about this repetition is it actually comes before the main law, right, back here in verse 6, where it says all kinds of details. So even if it's flipped backwards, it still works, right? Even though this law will be taught in detail, and this will be the main place, nevertheless, it's repeated here just because it wants to add im himaseh timaseh, so that you could learn the extra law. Elsewhere, Rishmael explains that Moshe taught, repeated the Torah at different biditot in different years, And so when he made the Brit at Har Sinai, and then he made the Brit in the 40th year, he repeated the laws, right? You agree again. And so he had to repeat the laws, and he may just add one detail, but that's a sufficient reason to repeat the entire paragraph. Ve'ema ganav asmo bishvu'ah. Now we ask a new question. According to this Tana that learned 6 as a different law of 7 and 8, and 6 is about a regular ganav, and 7 and 8 is about a shomer who claims that it was stolen. And you see here regarding a shomer, it says we said that he only has to pay double if he swears. So since these are right next to each other, why don't we say that this is true also for a thief? A regular thief only has to pay double if he swears, and we can learn one from the other, right? Ganav asmo has to swear in order to pay double. We say, no, la sakadatech detanya. Rabbi Yaakov omer, shenayim yeshalem shelo bishvu'ah. No, we have a braita that Rabbi Yaakov says, double he pays, right? It says here, right here, the Gana Yishalem Shenayim, he pays double, and that's it. So Shenayim Yishalem, right? This is Yishalem Shenayim. Okay, it's quoted backwards, but that's okay. And that means it doesn't say anything about a vow. Wait, is that true? Is that without a vow? Maybe it means with a vow. Amata lo kachaya. No, you said it's not. You have to say it's not so. That's the end of the braita. Now, what do you mean it's not so? Maybe it is. My lo kachaya. Now, what do you mean it wasn't? It was not so. That just because the pasuk didn't say so. I know it didn't say so. We're learning it by a comparison. Amar Abaye lo la lichtov rachamana shenayim yeshalem baganav velete bekav hachomer mitoen tanat ganav. Uma toen tanat ganav de betera atalide amar kera lishalem tere ganav atzmo de bisura atalide lo kol sheken. So Abaye says we can learn this. Look, lokachaya is going on the words shenayim yeshalem. That the Torah did not have to write the words shenayim yeshalem at all in pasuk 6 regarding a regular thief. And I could have learned that law from a kal vachomer from pasukim 7 and 8. All I need is those pasukim, and I don't need pasuk 6 at all, and I could figure out from a kal vachomer that as follows: if someone who is a shomer and he claims it was stolen, and the shomer, he got the item in a permitted way. In fact, the owner gave it to him and said, "Can you please hold on to this?" And yet, when he tries to keep it for himself and claims it was stolen, he has to pay double. And Torah says he has to pay double. So someone who outright steals and doesn't get it in a permitted way, breaks into your house and steals it, all the more so, he should have to pay double. So why does the pasuk need the whole pasuk 6? And to say, Shenayim Yeshalem, it's coming to add a chidush that this leniency only applies to a shomer who received it in a permitted way. He only pays double when he swears. But the pasuk adds, we add pasuk 6 to say that the regular thief has to pay double even when he does not swear. Final question. According to everybody, whatever you used pasuk 3 to teach me before, whether it's to teach me a regular thief or if it's to teach me the law of Rav, of self-incrimination, you're so using those for different things. But hold on, we already used this for something completely different. In the following braita, it says yado, which is the next word, yado. So if I find the stolen item in the hand of the thief, then he has to pay double. I only know that he has to pay double if it's found in his hand. But what if it's in his roof or in his yard or in his enclosure? How do you know he has to pay double? That's why the doubled verb says wherever it's found, no matter what, even anywhere in his property. So the answer to that is says you're right. If it said if it said the same doubled verb, himaseh, then I would learn this one thing. Or timaseh, I would learn only this one thing, that it means anywhere in his property. But the fact that the Torah not only doubles the verb, but changes it, himaseh, timaseh, that from that fact I can learn two laws from it, not only the law no matter where it's found, but also the law either of ganav in general or the law of self-incrimination. Baruch Adonai leolam, amen ve'amen.